Hello everyone, welcome back to Story Retold. Calina here, continuing with Everything Wrong with Nancy Drew Games by Arglefumph. You should check out his channel, and this playlist for this particular series is in the description below. So, this is my reaction. It's been a long time since I've seen this, if I even have. It's been years, but now I'm not an employee of Her Interactive anymore, so I can say opinions now. Here we go.
She refused to say why over the phone.
The premise of the game is that Sally refuses to tell Nancy about the ghost dogs over the phone, but literally the first thing that happens in this game is Sally telling Nancy about the ghost dogs over the phone.
Sure.
Sally's note in the opening scene doesn't match the note in the actual game.
Yeah, no, that's a good continuity catch.
Nancy's car is blocked in this area, but you can't see it anywhere.
I know, right? And also, fun fact, when I worked for Interactive, I had to look up this picture just because I was curious what type of car this was, and oh my goodness, I forget what it was. I believe this was actually a Toyota that they used, and they flipped it around and then changed something to make it look unique, and they cropped out, obviously the brand, make, and model, but it was a convertible. They needed a convertible, and it was actually a different color too, I think. Photoshop work. Yay.
Oh, the dead maple beside the driveway.
Sally doesn't know her house has multiple dead maples.
Maybe she had it assessed before she bought the property.
Call M's Emporium.
You can't call Emily in this game. It's okay, I didn't want to call her anyway.
The dog! Those dogs! Howling and snarling. Teeth and claws. Horrible.
Sally's phone apparently has a scary word filter.
If that's how you interpret going through a tunnel or getting out of bad cell service, sure.
There's a piece of paper under the couch that is begging me to pick it up, but I can't look at it.
It kind of looks like a telephone book, huh?
Rotten floorboards, watch your...
Nancy and the note say floorboards plural, but the subtitles say floorboards singular.
Yeah, some typos in the writing and the dialogue, that was expected.
If the floorboards break as soon as you step on them, how did Sally walk over here to put up the note?
Maybe Nancy weighs more than Sally, and that's what triggered the fall.
There is no reason Nancy can't use the water pump at night.
Yes, there is. Game design logic prevents you from doing something before you're supposed to. Logically, though, as a player, yeah, it does make sense.
The moon's so bright, I won't need my flashlight. It's pitch black outside.
Nancy makes a point of mentioning how bright it is. At the same time, she says it's too dark to use the boat.
That's a fair argument. I agree.
The moon always stays in the same shape and position, no matter how many days Nancy stays at the cabin.
Wow, your attention to detail is spot on. Game design.
The food at the cabin never spoils, no matter how many days Nancy stays there.
It's just bananas. They could have been kind of greenish before Nancy arrived.
What is Nancy eating and drinking, anyway? There appears to be no source of food besides this cooler, and the water in the well is poisoned.
Yeah, Nancy never eats or drinks, unless player is allowed to, and she never uses the bathroom. And she can go on and on and on without sleeping. She could. Nancy is, invincible.
Subtitles use the wrong who's.
Good catch.
That was a Strix variant.
Red uses the Latin name for hoot owl for no apparent reason.
He's a nerd.
Now look what you've done.
Red says Nancy scared away the owls by making too much noise, but she didn't make any noise.
Did he say she made noise? Or maybe it's just her presence, because birds, when they see people, they scatter as well.
She did was walk off the porch. Red loudly scolds Nancy for not being quiet. Red is a jerk. The subtitles put an apostrophe before and after the T in don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a little outboard down there on the lake.
Red's boat is nearby, but you can't see it anywhere.
That's true.
Red's clothes become darker when the ghost dogs start howling. Bad animation with Red's right sleeve. Nancy doesn't ask Red or Ranger Akers for help in removing the dead maple.
Yeah, that would have made sense to do.
Part of the key is sticking out of the lock. Nancy could still grab it and twist it.
Unless it's like too small to grab and twist.
The key is in the lock here, but when you look up, it disappears.
It's very tiny.
Looks like paw prints.
The existence of these paw prints is never explained. Why would the culprit have the dogs attack the cemetery?
I could see that. I could see an argument being made that the ghost dogs attack. Proof that the dogs are attacking everywhere. I don't think it's necessary to explain the paw prints.
The dogs start their attack, then they patiently wait for Nancy to enter the house before they continue attacking.
Yeah, convenient.
How are the dogs jiggling the doorknobs? Dogs don't have thumbs.
It could be a loose doorknob because when you smash into a door, it could be really loose and jiggle by itself.
How did the dogs turn off the lights?
That is a good question. How are they affecting the electricity input?
The ghost dogs attacked Sally multiple times, but they only attacked Nancy once.
Yeah, that is a good point. Also, it could be an electrical interference with the culprit's remote control, too, for the lights. That's what I'm thinking.
Why did the culprit decide to stop using the ghost dogs to scare people away?
Stop? I guess just the one dog attack. I guess after the culprit learned, caught on to Nancy and her investigative work, maybe, she decided to let Nancy kind of lead her to the treasure.
Nancy could totally walk across here. She's just being picky about the floorboards for no reason. Nobody cares that a creepy old birdwatcher is staying on Sally's property without her permission.
I think it's not her property, actually. I think somewhere on the map there shows a boundary line. I think this is where the player is actually crossing over into the next territory.
I just heard a cerulean warbler.
No, you didn't. The cerulean warbler sleeps at night. Red only looks for birds at nighttime when it's dark and most birds are asleep. Nancy does everyone else's chores cliche. Why did Red leave his cassette player with Emily?
Forgot?
Why did Red leave his cassette player but keep his tape? Tapes are useless without a player.
Maybe he had multiple tapes and he was swapping them out.
If Red is a professional bird watcher, why does he need a tape to recognize birds?
Just reassurance, I suppose. I mean, if you can't remember the exact sounding of one bird and it sounds similar to another bird, having a reference is really cool.
The Western Tanager is not native to Pennsylvania.
Well, maybe... Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Emily's store does movie rentals, but her notebook says she rents movies from other stores.
Yeah, good point. Maybe she only wants to keep a few movies on stock.
Ranger Akers' pants are visible from here, but not here.
Because it's below the counter?
Any idea what would make a dog's eyes glow yellow?
The game wants you to think the dog's eyes were yellow when they were clearly green. Ranger Akers claims to be busy, but all he does is stand behind his desk.
Yeah.
What is he doing at his desk anyway? It looks like he's touching something, but there's nothing on the desk in front of him. Akers' desk disappears.
Oh, I see. Ooh, that's a subtle but good animation catch.
Akers' desk disappears a second time.
Oh.
Ranger Akers is so vain, he put his own biography on the Moon Lake computer. The page on Roman numerals is listed under Creation of Moon Lake State Park, under History of Moon Lake. Neither of those headings have anything to do with Roman numerals.
I agree. That was not placed well in the navigation tree of this website. Jeff Akers needs to fix that.
The computer says all boats must display a permit, but Nancy's boat doesn't.
All boats? It talks about... Okay, well, I guess. Huh.
Red's cassette player doesn't have the standard pause and fast forward buttons.
Has stop and eject.
Red's cassette player doesn't have a record button, so how did he record his tape of bird calls?
Maybe with a different recorder device?
Red complains that the platform gives him splinters in his butt, even though he sits on a cushioned stool, not the platform.
Good catch. Oh, goodness.
Tweet, tweet!
Nancy knows that loud noises scare birds, but she still shouts at them to get their attention.
I know, Nancy's not that intelligent at times.
It is counterintuitive that the game requires you to fail the bird challenge before you can complete the bird challenge.
You're wearing those clothes. That's what you're doing wrong.
Red criticizes Nancy's clothing when his clothes are clearly reused from Nancy Drew number 5. Nancy needs to find a dozen critters so she can get camouflage gear, so she can get all of Red's bird pictures, so she can get the spark plug, so she can test the water in Sally's well. That is 4 chores for the price of 1.
I've heard other people complain about that sequence of required steps in order to get one thing done. It does add a lot to the game and makes the game a little bit linear, for sure. So I can see the complaint there. I agree. That's could have been done a little bit differently.
This giant chore run takes up over half the game. The critters puzzle is long and tedious because you have to search every single spot in the woods twice, once at night and once during the day. And if you miss a critter, you're forced to do the entire search again. The bird puzzle also requires you to search the woods multiple times. Some of the critters in the woods are not actually in the woods.
Sally's house is in the woods.
This puzzle.
What's wrong with that puzzle? I love that puzzle.
Nancy finds a hidden passageway cliche.
I love that too.
Nancy doesn't question the obvious doorway that is built into this wall.
Yeah, you could say the same for Treasure in the Royal Tower when you see an obvious... I mean, you did comment on that already, I think, too.
Nancy thinks Akers' dog is suspicious, even though it looks nothing like the ghost dogs.
No, that's true. Nancy only saw 2 dogs. There could have been more dogs that she didn't see, so therefore you don't know what the breeds were.
Akers' desk disappears again. The Roman numerals puzzle. William Akers had...
Wait, what's wrong with the Roman numerals puzzle? I think it was an excellent way of learning the Roman numeral system. Besides reading the chapter books, or the chapter list in the Nancy Drew Yellow Books.
The dog map for 9 years, but he never figured out there was a connection between the map and the tile picture of the map. There's a space before the sentence in the text box, which messes up the text alignment and bothers me way more than it should.
Well,
We put that in
according to
there
my
just
bird
for
map,
you.
Red made Nancy find birds for him when he had a bird map the entire time. Red doesn't share his bird map with Nancy, even though she asks him for help with the bird challenge twice. Red is a jerk.
We established that.
The culprit just happens to be at Sally's house when Nancy first sees the speaker. Nancy's not wearing camouflage gear anymore. When and where did she change clothes? Nancy's mom jeans. Even with her ankles tied together, Nancy should be able to stand up and hop away. Everything in the shed is old and worn out, except the scythe, because the plot requires it to be sharp.
It could still be sharp and old. I mean, it only gets dull when it gets used.
Have you ever tried sawing a rope on a blade that's lying on the ground when you can't use your hands because they're crossed and tied together behind your back? It's not as easy as this game would have you think.
Are you speaking from experience, Michael? I'm curious, what is the story that you have to share?
Nobody cares that Nancy was almost murdered.
I know, sad.
The culprit isn't charged with attempted murder.
Really? I guess. I mean, you can't really prove it, though, too.
Small splash of water puts out a large fire. Splashing water on the outside of the shed puts out a fire on the inside of the shed. Why is Red Knott here during the daytime?
probably smoke inhalation or something.
He might be at a different part of the forest.
That's a serious medical condition, Red. You should call 911 immediately. Red asks Nancy to meet him later so he can check his camera's okay. Red is a jerk.
We established that.
Akers gives Nancy a ticket because someone tried to murder her. Akers is a jerk.
That was
You know
a
which
jerk
character
move.
from the final scene I wanted to see in a second game? Not Eustacia and Drop-Off. Manually dialing 10-digit phone numbers.
Hey, that's what you gotta do.
Nancy's flashlight dies at the crucial moment cliche. Combo Cola has over 100 recommendations for how to display their sodas. Obsessive much?
You also notice that cola sodas, in general, all have the same top color. aluminum gray.
That doesn't look much like a fish to me.
Oh well.
If a person buys a single can of cola, the fish display is ruined. A whole lot of work for nothing.
I know.
Emily gives you 4 big batteries just for moving around soda cans. Doesn't she know how expensive batteries are? The speakeasy has been abandoned for over 30 years, but the electricity seems to be working just fine.
It's attached to the house.
This puzzle.
Hey, that's a great
Opening
puzzle.
the door
I think that was a great puzzle. I love that.
to the well also opens the door to Emily's lair. Why are those 2 doors connected?
I don't know. That's Mickey Malone's building design. I don't know.
Since both doors are connected, how did Emily open the one door but not the other? The game doesn't explain how Emily found this underground tunnel. She clearly didn't take the same route that Nancy did.
Good point. How did she get down there? If she's got access to the dogs here.
Emily's notebook proves she had the 4 dogs long before she built the secret tunnel kennel. Nobody ever mentions this.
Aw.
Emily suddenly stops putting dates in her notebook, probably to cover for the fact that she spent several months doing nothing. This puzzle. Nancy finds lost treasure cliche. In the ending, Emily's dialogue has line breaks. Everywhere else in the game, the text runs to the far side of the text box.
Difference in the structure of how character conversation was coded versus cutscenes and cinematics. Oops.
I called the sheriff.
Which apparently was not a possibility until just now. How did the news van get past the fallen maple? Preview of the next game makes it seem way scarier than it actually is.
Oh, that's not fair. Also, Tucker Davis could have gone out and sawed that tree out while Nancy was stuck down in the tunnels. That's possible.
Gamebox promises over 20 hours of gameplay. Gamebox promises over 30 puzzles.
Yeah, I'd question that number count for the puzzles. When it comes to the 20 hours of gameplay, back then, it took people a lot longer to figure out what to do and wandering around and exploring. But if you've played this game before, if you have internet access and can look up how to do things, or maybe you're just a really good gamer, yeah, it would take you a lot faster.
Credits leave a blurry blue box behind them instead of leaving the background intact like all the other games do.
Oh, interesting observation. 111. Sentence. Bird watching with red. Awesome. Wait, how do we... Okay. Anyways, not too bad. Not too bad. Alright. Stay tuned for the next video, and be sure to follow Arglefumph and check out his playlist below. I will see you in the next one. Bye!